The limestone is so white it hurts to look at. Under the morning sun, the Giza Plateau blazes like a second horizon. 3 pyramids stand sheathed in polished Tura limestone. Their surfaces so smooth they throw light across the Nile Valley. There is no sand drifting against their bases, no erosion, no weathering. They are barely 2 generations old, and they look like they were finished yesterday. It is roughly 2500 BCE, and the sound that fills this plateau is not silence, it is hammering. Thousands of copper chisels ring against stone in a rhythm that carries for miles. Iron does not exist here yet. Every cut into every block is made with copper, a metal softer than the stone it shapes. Somewhere below the Great Pyramid's western face, a foreman shouts over the noise. A new mastaba tomb is being cut for a minor official, because the pyramids have already changed who matters and who does not. The city attached to this construction stretches south of the monuments. Most people today picture the pyramids standing alone in empty desert. They did not. A planned settlement of mud brick buildings, grain silos, and copper workshops sprawled across the low ground. The workers who built the Great Pyramid lived here, ate here, and, based on healed fractures found in their skeletons, were treated by physicians here. This was not a slave camp. It was an industrial town with a bakery output that could feed 10,000 people daily. A woman kneels beside a row of ceramic bread molds near the settlement's eastern bakery. She presses emmer wheat dough into conical forms, then slides them toward an open pit oven already white with heat. The ash on her forearms has been there since before dawn. Behind her, several hundred identical molds cool in stacked rows, each one destined for a work crew that will never learn her name. The bread she makes is bedja, a dense, calorie-heavy loaf designed for labor. Its recipe was not chosen for taste. It was chosen because a man hauling 2-ton limestone blocks up a construction ramp needs roughly 4,000 calories a day. The grain for this bread arrives by boat, collected as tax from farms across Upper and Lower Egypt. One pyramid does not just reshape a plateau, it reshapes the economy of an entire river valley. Walk north from the bakeries and the plateau rises sharply. The base of the Great Pyramid covers 13 acres. Each side is aligned to true north, with an accuracy of less than 1/15 of a degree. No compass existed. The builders used stellar observation, sighting the circumpolar stars from a circular mud brick wall, then bisecting the arc of rotation. The engineering is quiet, not theatrical. It solves enormous problems with patience rather than mystery. The copper that makes this possible deserves its own attention. Every chisel on this plateau dulls within minutes against limestone. A network of smiths works at the plateau's edge, their furnaces burning continuously, resharpening and recasting blunted tools as fast as crews can wear them down. The copper itself travels hundreds of miles from mines in the Sinai, carried by donkey caravan across open desert to the Nile, then shipped upstream to Giza. A single pyramid consumes more copper than most cities of this era will use in a generation. The logistics of keeping 10,000 workers supplied with functional chisels is itself an engineering problem as complex as anything happening on the pyramid's face. The outer casing stones are where the pyramid earns its reputation. Each block of Tura limestone was quarried across the river, floated on barges during the annual flood, then dragged on sledges up prepared causeways. Workers poured water in front of the sledge runners to reduce friction by half. A single casing block weighs roughly 2.5 tons. The Great Pyramid required an estimated 67,000 of them. When new, they were polished with abrasive sand until the joints between blocks measured less than 1/50th of an inch. You could not slide a razor blade between them. The structure they formed remained the tallest on Earth for 3,800 years. Stand at the base and look up. The surface is a continuous slope of reflected sunlight. There are no footholds, no visible seams, no texture. It rises at 51 degrees for 481 feet to a gilded capstone, the pyramidion, sheathed in electrum, a natural alloy of gold and silver. At dawn and dusk, the capstone catches light minutes before anything else on the horizon. From the far side of the Nile Delta, it would have appeared as a single bright point floating above the river haze. The interior is a different world. Step through the original entrance on the northern face, and the temperature drops immediately. A descending corridor angles downward at 26 degrees through solid bedrock. The air is still and smells of calcium dust. Torchlight here would have been rare and precious. The workers who cut these passages did so largely in the dark, following chalk guide marks and measuring with knotted ropes. Above the descending passage, the Grand Gallery rises at the same angle but upward. Its corbelled ceiling reaches 28 feet high and narrows as it climbs. The walls here are granite, brought 800 miles from Aswan on the Upper Nile. Sound behaves strangely in this corridor. A whisper travels the full length of the gallery. A dropped chisel rings against the stone for several seconds, the echo folding over itself before it fades. A single granite beam above the king's chamber weighs over 50 tons. Getting it here required a separate construction effort equivalent to building a modest temple. Somewhere in these corridors, a stone setter runs his thumb along a joint line, checking the fit by feel alone, because in this darkness, his fingers are more reliable than his eyes. The king's chamber itself contains one object. A red granite sarcophagus sits near the western wall, cut from a single block and polished inside and out. It is wider than the ascending corridor. The sarcophagus was placed here during construction, and the pyramid was built around it. The room was sealed with 3 portcullis slabs of granite, each lowered into grooves from above, each weighing several tons. The engineers who designed this system understood that grave robbers would come. They designed against it, and they failed. Every pyramid built in Egypt was eventually opened and emptied. A roofed causeway runs from the pyramid's eastern face down to a valley temple at the Nile's edge. The same corridor carried construction materials uphill and funeral processions down. The temple walls are clad in red granite, its floors in alabaster. During the annual inundation, the Nile would rise to within steps of its entrance, and a boat could dock directly at the temple's base. Khufu's funeral barge, discovered in 1954, buried in a sealed pit beside the pyramid, stretches 143 feet long. It was built from Lebanese cedar, imported at enormous cost, assembled with rope lashings rather than nails, and then dismantled and sealed underground for the king's use in the afterlife. When the pit was opened, the wood still smelled of cedar resin after 4,500 years. The Sphinx crouches nearby, but it was never planned as a monument. The limestone outcrop it occupies was too fractured and stratified to yield good building blocks. Workers quarrying stone for the nearby temples cut around the unusable rock, leaving a raised mass surrounded by a recessed courtyard. Someone, likely Khafra, recognized a shape in what remained and ordered it carved. The Sphinx was born from what the builders could not use. When finished, it was plastered smooth and painted. The face was red. The Nemes headdress was striped in blue and gold. It was not mysterious then. It was legible. A royal portrait guarding the necropolis entrance, made from the plateau's own leftovers. Now look past the monuments and toward the people who actually made this landscape function. The Nile's flood cycle dictated everything, including the construction calendar itself. Farmers could not work their fields during the 3 months of inundation. The state organized these idle laborers into rotating crews, housing them in the workers' settlement, feeding them from centralized bakeries and breweries. Beer rations were distributed twice daily, thick, nutritious beer brewed from partially baked bread, roughly 1 1/3 gallons per worker per day. This was not leisure drinking. The beer provided essential calories and B vitamins that the bread alone could not supply. The crew organization was remarkably structured. Workers were divided into gangs of roughly 2,000, then into named teams. Some graffiti discovered inside the pyramid identify teams by competitive titles scratched in red ochre on blocks that were never meant to be seen. Friends of Khufu reads one. Drunkards of Menkaure reads another, found inside the third pyramid. These marks survived only because they were sealed behind casing stones for millennia. They are the oldest workplace graffiti ever found, and they read less like the marks of forced labor than the tags of men who wanted to be remembered. A physician works from a mud brick room near the settlement's western edge. His papyrus kit contains copper probes, linen strips, and a jar of honey used as an antibacterial dressing. He sets the broken arm of a quarry worker using wooden splints and wrapping soaked linen that will harden as it dries. The fracture is clean. The bone will heal. 3 years from now, this same worker will haul casing stones up a ramp he helped build, using an arm that knitted back together under supervision, more careful than most people would expect from a construction site 45 centuries old. The dead here receive attention too. Workers' cemeteries have been excavated near the pyramids, and the burials are not crude. Some contain miniature food offerings, small limestone sarcophagi, and even simple funerary texts. A man who spent his life hauling stone was buried within sight of the structure he helped complete. His tomb is modest, but it exists. He was not discarded. Whether that reflects genuine reverence or efficient social management is a question that divides scholars and reveals more about the scholars than the evidence. As afternoon heat builds, the plateau becomes punishing. Limestone radiates stored warmth. The air above the desert floor shimmers and distorts the pyramid's outline from a distance. Water becomes the settlement's most critical resource by midday. It arrives through a canal system dug from the Nile specifically for this project, carrying enough volume for 10,000 workers, their livestock, mortar mixing, sledge lubrication, and cooking. The canal was one of the first things built before a single pyramid block was placed. Without it, nothing on this plateau functions for a day. The sun drops toward the western desert. The electrum capstone catches the last angled light and holds it. Below, the polished casing stones shift from white to gold to deep amber. The Nile reflects a thin line of fire. For a moment, the entire complex looks less like architecture and more like a controlled piece of the landscape itself, as though the plateau had always intended to come to a point. A boy carries water up from the canal that feeds the workers' settlement. He does not look up at the pyramid. He has never known the plateau without it. 45 centuries from now, the casing stones will be gone, stripped from medieval Cairo's mosques and walls. The capstone will be missing. The Sphinx's nose will be absent. Tourists will photograph ruins and call them wonders. The boy sets the water down beside a sleeping laborer and turns back toward the canal. He will make this trip 6 more times before dark. What we call ancient, they called new. What we see as ruins, they saw as proof that the world was ordered and the state could bend stone to purpose. Whether that belief sustained them or simply made the labor bearable depends on what you think monuments are actually for. The answer probably says more about your world than theirs. These reconstructions continue, one city at a time.